I am flying live, right? So I don't want any of my viewers to see me getting hurt or anything going through my prop, or, you know, I've had my embarrassing moments too. I've gotten wrapped by my wing, and it got all completely eaten up. You guys luckily helped me get some fabric to fix that.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the Aviator Show. I'm Reese Dockhand. Alongside me I have DRO.
What's up, man?
We have just met. We are pushing the boundaries when it comes to filmmaking in the sky. I do a lot of post-production. DRO's doing a lot of IRL live streaming.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, that's just basically in real life, right? Mm-hmm. And but the version of live streaming that is where you're rocking a camera on you and you're walking around. People can chat and interact with you while you're walking around. People can donate and like talk through the streams, all of that. So that's kind of where the IRL streaming side of it is. And I was doing that way before, you know, flying, and I decided it would be really cool to see someone who can do that in the air. But then beyond that, all other stuff that we were talking about earlier with like how NASCAR does their stuff and all the integrations and everything.
Yeah, the different point of view, POVs, right?
Yeah.
So you can choose what driver you want to pay attention to,
Correct.
Maybe what pilot you want to pay attention to. And what's really cool is the engagement features that you've kind of came up with so that people in the chats can engage with different artifacts on your pilot apparatus, like your cage lights, you have a horn.
Yeah. Yeah, so the small version of the story really is like I was really flying alone for a long time after I learned. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have anyone that could help me with the IRL part of the streaming because there was a lot of things I wanted to integrate that it requires you to be on your phone, and you can't really do that while you're piloting all the time.
It's not safe.
Yeah, and I figured if I'm going to be doing it and anyone's going to see what I'm doing, I want to make sure I'm doing it as safe as possible. So if someone tries to copy it, they're going to do it right and not get hurt.
And be successful.
I learned that, you know, from the whole skydiving side of things, where they are very strict on what you can wear and how to wear it. You can't even have a camera really like this sticking out because it's a hazard to get snagged.
Yep.
So I started trying to minimize my system in every way. And one of the things that I had a problem with was I had multicam streaming where I could fly over my house and show the camera view from the ground, but I didn't really have anyone who could switch for me. And while I'm flying, if I'm getting some bumps in the wind, I don't want to be on my phone. So I ended up putting these bots together that allowed me to switch cameras. And I started noticing other things, like people would always ask me, oh, what's the weather like up there when you're flying? So then I added like a weather girl, and she shows up and shows the weather whenever anybody asks what the weather is. So there's cool stuff like that, but I mean, I can go on forever about it because there's so many things.
And can you describe what a bot is? B-O-T?
Yeah, so when it comes to live streaming, bots are generally like an application that's listening in the background for a command. So for example, I can have one that's connected to like a Philips Hue lighting rig, you know, and then if somebody puts in a donation, that light changes colors. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've probably seen that with streamers where they have it in the background, you know, all those cool colors.
Yeah.
So I figured you could even do that now with paramotors, because there's a lot of guys rocking the lights on their frame. Mm-hmm. And how do you really control that? You either hit a button or you're on your cell phone once again, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing an event, I thought, oh, this would be so cool to just integrate it where somebody on the ground can manage all that. So you don't have to worry about it. Pilot can do his thing. Mm-hmm. And if he's doing barrel rolls and all this, you can't be managing lights.
No way.
So I started figuring out how to integrate all that stuff together over the past couple of years. And the bots kind of sit there and listen to all the commands that come in. So whether it's somebody in chat typing in weather,
keyword,
or if it's somebody donating, or if you could even have other things like timers. So every 30 seconds I could have like a little thing pop up on the corner that says subscribe or whatever.
Yep.
So I tried to integrate all of that into live streaming in the sky, which I found to be incredibly difficult starting out.
Yeah.
As you probably know, right? I mean, you've tried live streaming too, I'm sure. And
not from the air yet.
No,
I'm very
not,
excited
okay.
to see what you have soon to come right around the corner with his equipment for live streaming in the air.
So like a lot of pilots would basically be either pulling out their cell phone, right?
Yeah,
and
I've seen
turning
that.
on
I've seen
YouTube or Facebook or whatever.
I think the GoPro also does like a live streaming situation.
Yeah,
too,
there's like a Wi-Fi connection between your phone, and it uses your phone's Wi-Fi
to stream the GoPro video.
Yeah, exactly. And I found a lot of issues with that because of the way that your cell phone is streaming. It never really holds the bit rate correctly. And then you can only really hold the phone for so long before you got to put it down, and it's never going to be straight, you know?
Yeah.
So if you want to get like a real pilot's point of view, like how do you do that, right? Because GoPros also are notorious for dying early.
They have their issues, that is for sure.
Yeah, if you're doing a cross country, it's going to overheat by the time you get like 30 minutes out.
It's either that or battery. 100%.
Right, and even then, they can have issues. But not, you know, there's ways to make them work as well. And I kind of figured with these systems, the way that like NASCAR drivers do it and all that stuff, a lot of times they use like those live view systems that I was showing you. I actually have one here I can show you. And
yeah, if you're a
this
streamer,
was like part one for me.
Yeah, if you're a streamer, you definitely know the live view box.
Yeah, so this is like what everybody was originally using, you know.
It's nice and heavy, it's metal framing, it's a battery hog. You can power it remotely, but like you said.
Yeah, you can add a battery on top of the one that's inside, and you know, it's got a screen on it, which is nice, so you can see the real-time view of your camera if you need to, and you could see your bit rate, so if you're like low on signal. Another cool thing about these boxes that's better than using your cell phone is it allows for bonding internet connections. So if you have multiple modems connected to it and Wi-Fi signal and all that, it acts as one really fast one. So if you're at an event and you've got a lot of people with cell phones, you're gonna have a hard time streaming because the bandwidth of the towers are being used up by the hundreds of cell phones that are there on that tower.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, what do we do with this? And bonding was the issue. And then once you get, like, you could get a T-Mobile, an AT&T modem, and a Verizon, whatever, stick them all together. Now, if one is slow, the other ones pick up for it, and you can keep a nice stream going at like 1080p or 4K or whatever.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this box was the original thing that I used.
Version 1 for sure.
Yeah, doing all that.
Yeah.
And there's a protocol that it streams in that was creating issues for me with it losing sync over time and all that without getting too technical. And so version 2 was like building this other box that would minimize all the extra gear I had to carry, because with this, you're saying like it could be a battery hog. You run the extra battery, but then you're killing it quick as well, right? So I would go maybe like 2 hours on a light battery, and then unless I want to carry a really heavy one, I could go like 8 hours if I really want it.
Yeah, that's mega. Yeah.
That's like for, you know, cross countries, whatever, if you're stopping, keep going. Fly-ins, I did that at the fly-ins where I was streaming like the whole day.
Dang.
You know, just rocking the camera on me.
Okay.
Yeah, so this other box, when I started building it, it has this other protocol on it that allows me to jump towers and everything, and it picks up the stream right where it left off. And with the ability to also bond with multiple modems, it gives me the ability to not worry about whether or not my stream died, because if for a second, you know, it's trying to find another tower somewhere near or anything like that. So that really saved me from like losing the stream halfway. And my biggest hurdles now are having the correct modems that can keep up the signals where I am, because a lot of times I'm using like the cheaper plans, like Verizon has a visible plan, you know, and it's like $20 a month. And so it's cheap to keep and whatever, but then you're limited on the amount of bandwidth you get on the tower.
Okay.
But then for someone professional wanting to do it, they could go with like the good
more dedicated service.
The medical guys, I guess they have like some sort of emergency tower preference, right? And they have cell phone signals that are completely unlimited. They're not stopped by any kind of like bit rate. Like after you hit a certain amount, they cut you off or nothing. So that was like a cool thing, is figuring all that stuff out over the past couple of years to find out what works best for me. And then wherever you are, that all changes, you know, like you got to make sure you have the modems for that area.
Sure.
So that was like the biggest thing for me, was like, how do I make this for like other pilots, right?
Yeah.
Because if I want to tell you as a pilot, like this is what you need to live stream, I can't just go here, you know, you bought the system, go hook it up and you're good to go.
Right.
There's like a lot to learn in the process of how it's all hooked up. Because now even in between this box streaming, though you can send it directly to YouTube or wherever, I have it going to another server. So I have a computer that's always on, and it runs OBS and like my bots and everything on there. So basically when I go live on here, I'm not going live really. I'm just sending my stream to my computer at home or wherever it is at the moment. And that handles all sorts of cool things. So then I can add in like the weather thing and all that. It's like web pages that you can put up that pop up on the screen, like all sorts of cool stuff. Because now at that point, it's like you're sitting at a computer having a desktop stream, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like you're a gamer just sitting there with all your cool overlays for whatever. So when somebody's like, oh, how fast is DRO flying? You could like pull up, you know, gaggle information directly from gaggle. So if I'm flying with it on, it'll show on my screen, you know?
Yeah, like a picture in picture.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so like I kept thinking, you know, there's so many other cool things that we could do with this, right? And I figured, why not come to talk to you about it and show you kind of what I'm doing?
I'm excited.
Because I'm sure you guys could come up with so much other cool stuff, you know, when it comes to events.
Me personally, I'm always looking for the best way to tell a story. And if I can minimize editing, which live stream does,
Right.
I would like to see how we can implement those two together. I love smooth cameras. What we're going to see is a static camera mounted, so it's going to be a challenge, but I'd like to see how we can merge the storytelling to the IRL.
Well, you can.
Real
so
life.
you can actually take your rig, any rig that has HDMI out, and plug it into this. You could use webcams, so just a regular USB webcam. You could use GoPros and other stuff. So there's multiple ways that you can actually connect. So like if you had you know, a DSLR like this with your good lens on it and everything, and you're flying and you have it on your knee thing and all that,
Right.
you could get cinematic footage while you're streaming like that. So everything you're seeing and recording is actually also being live streamed at the same time.
Very cool. Let's check out your equipment. Let's run
Yeah,
through it.
so I use this Sony HDRX camera, or FDRX, I think it is, but it's like a camera that actually has a liquid lens in the lens, so it helps stabilize it mechanically instead of digitally. So that was a thing that I loved about this one that everybody used to use for live streaming IRL, because you can run and walk and you're not getting that weird shaky bouncy as much that makes everybody nauseous trying to watch your stream.
No doubt.
And even the 360 cameras I found out can connect to this too. So the 3 and the 4, those both can connect, whether you want to do VR, like live stream 360, or if you want to do just a regular GoPro view, you can hit like the 0 button on there, or the circle, and it lets you also live stream from that. So for those who don't have this camera, you could still get away with getting like good smooth footage, you know, out of those, because they're stabilized.
Yeah.
So basically what I do is I just connect, I have a USB for my power, and then my HDMI micro, which goes into the camera, and that goes into my ozone bag that has the good stuff in it.
This thing's sick. So the Sony camera I've seen before, it's an older model action camera, still shoots 4K. You have a battery source to keep it alive. You have the HDMI source for the video feed, and then that video feed is going to...
So in here, I have this box here, which I'll unplug.
The Raspberry Pi.
This is actually a Orange Pi. Yeah, it's like a Raspberry Pi, but the difference with this one is not only does it have extra inputs for HDMI in and all this stuff, it has a processing chip on it that's better for encoding video. So you're able to live stream at like higher qualities and all that, and it takes up way less power than something like this does. So you can literally plug it into one of these little battery banks.
Nice.
So you can charge your GoPro or whatever while you're actually streaming and having everything running. And so this box here is it's like pretty much a Raspberry Pi, right?
Right, a
so
home built computer.
Yeah, all the pins in it. That
For those of you that are watching that don't know Raspberry Pis or home, like I forget what they're what type
like
of computer.
microcomputers and like single board computers.
Yeah. So they've been, the Raspberry Pi platform has been used to do multiple things. You're just asking this to run a specific program.
Yeah, like you could literally run a drone platform on this, you know, and fly it around. And like there's other ones like the Jetson Nano can also do it. It's got a good encoder on it. So like if you were to use a Raspberry Pi, you can still stream on it, but it's not going to be the same as the type of quality and resolution you can get out of something like this.
Okay, very
And then you might also have other issues with signals. So then the benefit of using this also from this is that it's got all these pinouts. So now if you want to add in your own actual like accelerometers and gyros and GPS and everything, you plug them in directly, put your own code on here to run those things, and now you can have your overlays for that as well. You can grab them from your phone, but if you want to have it directly on a system, like even just to get RPMs, you know, you could directly connect that sensor onto here, and then now you have a way to show it. And you can't do that with this. This is just gonna stream, you know. So once I got this box together, I started realizing, you know, other things that were gonna help me out with the stream. Like my audio was a big issue in the beginning because I had my mic on my Cena, but you can't output audio to the headphone out and to the actual headphones at the same time. So it's got a plug where you would put your own headphones in, and then it cancels out these. So then all of a sudden I can't do two outputs unless I start using a ton of splitters. Right?
Yeah.
So to get around that with my mic, I started using those
Rode
microphones, these guys here. And so I could just wear one around my neck, you know, with the fuzzy things over it to stop the wind, and the dead cat, tiny dead cat.
And that plugs directly to the Orange Pi.
Yeah, so then there's an analog input here for a regular like headphone cable. So I just plug it into that, and the software on here allows me to select whether I want the audio from the HDMI or my mic.
There you go.
So then while I'm flying, if for some reason my mic dies, I can switch to the camera audio and still have people hear everything, instead of nothing. Yeah, and it can be done remotely. So like if we were both flying together and I was controlling your stuff from the ground and I saw that your audio went out, I could switch it, and you would never even know that your audio died, you know.
Nice. And then the last thing that we talk about is the connectivity from the sky.
The modem.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So this would plug.
So there's multiple types of modems. Like this is a Nighthawk modem, right? And this one here from Netgear is like same thing. You put in a cell phone SIM card in it, but this also has Ethernet out. So if you want to make sure like you got a good connection, you can have multiple different kinds, you know, and then that way you have redundancy. So these little ones are great because it's just as simple as, you know, you just plug it in and that's it. It just turns on and it's ready to go, just like a cell phone would be when you turn it on.
Right.
So the more that you have of those cell phone cards, the more you can use, and a couple people also have figured out you can use like not the cell phone plans, the watch plans, like the cheap like $20, $10 watch plans and stuff, and they work because they're still data plans. So then you can stream off of that at like high bit rate and everything. It just allows it to go through, which is pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I could go.
And then you've got the last bit of technology.
This stuff, this is fun too. We didn't talk about that yet.
You wear it on your hand like
on your arm.
Your arm.
You can put it on your arm, and basically once you turn that on, I have an app on my cell phone that'll show a heart rate, which I can pull up and show it on the screen as well.
Yeah, we'll show an example of the heart rate.
This is another version
from Polar.
So this one goes around your chest, and it's like an EKG. So this one has a pretty accurate measure of your heart rate. So it just sits right there, and what I would do is just, you know, put it under my shirt before I fly. But I found this one's much more comfortable, this little one. Because this one, I can just slide it on here, turn it on, it's ready to go. I put on my USB app on my phone, and as soon as that app goes on my phone, my OBS at home will receive the numbers.
Dang.
So then, because the server's already running.
Like near real time.
Pretty much within a couple seconds.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so as soon as I turn it on, or like if I forget to turn it on, I'll usually tell my girl like, hey, can you hit the command for it, and she'll just type it in and it'll turn it on for me.
So what's your goals? Like, what do you want to do with live streaming? Like,
my biggest goal has been to find a team of people who want to work with me to do this as kind of like the NASCAR people do it at events. So when there are fly-ins, when there are just performances, you know, that people do, that we could use this type of technology to showcase it in a different way, where you're actually seeing things about the pilot instead of just watching the pilot fly. Like watching a pilot's heart rate right before they're about to take off, or right when they're doing a barrel roll or something like that.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Formula One fanatic, so I love all the data. Like, because once you become a fan of a sport, you want to know more information, like about not only the lifestyle of the pilot or the driver, but also the time that it takes to get around the track. You know, all these weird little nuances that you would only know once you start watching it.
Yeah, and even positioning, like a cool thing that happened when I was flying at, I believe it was Aurora flying, and my signal cut out, so no one could see where I was anymore or anything. It just said, dead signal on my screen. So one of my buddies that had access to the stream went in, and he put in my gaggle overlay to show that I was still at altitude and still at this speed flying, whatever. Then you could see all the other pilots around me, which was neat. So when I would fly up next to a pilot, you could see who it was. So all those kind of things I just figured would be like super neat to do at these events where you just like showcase more, right? Just more of that data, like you were saying.
Could you put one of these boxes on like my Paramotor and we can live stream together?
Yeah, so I have two, right? This one and this one.
Yeah.
And I would just have to connect the account back up to this one, and then basically I would just hand that box to you. We hook it up to your camera, and it's already all pre-configured on my OBS. So if I wanted to switch between my cam and yours, it would just, someone on the ground can handle it. Or people in chat could do it. I could put commands that say cam 1, cam 2, and they could choose which one they want to see.
When you're live streaming, you can choose different platforms.
Right.
But only one account. You can't go to 2 YouTube channels.
You can.
You can?
You can go to 50 if you want.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what I did is, like I have my main channel, which is the DRO, and then the Paramotor IRL channel.
Okay.
And the Paramotor IRL channel, I figured I should be doing everything specifically about paramotors there because my main channel had so many different things on it. Mm-hmm. The algorithm hates that, right? Because it wants it. Like if you're a viewer and you come to my channel and you see a couple paramotor videos, the next video that plays is like about my pets. You might not be interested. You leave. YouTube thinks that is someone who's no longer interested in the other content in your channel, right? So it's kind of like a downvote almost, right?
Yeah.
But then if you have a channel that's like all about paramotors and then somebody's there for hours just going video through video, never getting bored because that's what they're there to see, it helps. So once I created this new channel, I was just like, this is a good way to just showcase like this stuff and try to get more people that are interested in paramotors, like doing it specifically,
Very interesting. How long would it take for us to get this set up? Because I really want to fly with this.
It would just take me like a couple hours to really just set it up and go over it with you, and just we could just talk about like what we want to do with it.
I would like to test out a couple things like audio, like your audio versus my audio, the merger of those two if we're talking to each other. Like, because I use the Cena, and if we could pull our conversations back and forth, do you have the mesh?
I do.
So we can have a whole conversation in the air.
Yeah, so a good way that we could do that too is, if we have like another one that can also hear it, we can just output the audio from that.
Right.
It would be like the third ear.
Yeah, I have that option.
Yeah.
I have that option for sure.
Because I have an extra one too, so we could.
I have an extra Cena.
Yeah, we would figure out a way to hook that up. Radios also work. You could hook up a radio to the ground computer and do it that way.
If people wanted to they're already doing this, but maybe in a different sport, or they are doing it and they're in paramotoring, how would they reach out to you?
Best way is really through like my paramotor channels or on Facebook is fine. And I want people to reach out to me to ask me questions about the live streaming stuff, or even about how to integrate different camera changing techniques and stuff like that. Because like I said, I want to find people who can build a team to do this, so that when an event comes up, we can go like, hey, these guys will all come together. We'll get all these pilots together and train them on how to use the gear and everything else.
Yeah, it would be super cool if we did it so that these boxes were super plug and play. So if we have something like, say, the Paramotor Stoll Classics, where you have 10, 20, 30 pilots.
Yeah.
But you get 5 boxes, 5 to the...
Even just a couple, you could swap them out.
Right. It would be cool to see like POV in different areas.
Yeah, and another thing, there's even a cell phone app that is free, and you can use that. It's better than most of the other stuff. Like if you're streaming directly to YouTube with their app, this thing has all these other capabilities of allowing ground control basically remotely to the app too. So if a pilot had it on their frame, for example, they wouldn't have to worry about whether or not they're zooming into things or any of that could be controlled by somebody else.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm getting at is there's multiple ways for all of that to be set up, that even if we only had 2 boxes, you could get 10 pilots up if they just all had the apps on the phone.
Huh.
Yeah, you can even put, as many pilots as you have that have the cell phone app could stream basically
From their cell phone.
from their cell phone to your OBS, and then someone on the ground would switch between those cameras. Yeah.
Well, very interesting. Love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think you're being incredibly innovative. You want to talk about your past history with how you got this far with the IT world?
So yeah, I started programming really young, but I eventually got a job working at a security camera place in South Florida, and I was doing like sales and helping out with like web design stuff for them and all that. But then I started getting really into how you can connect to these systems remotely and view the video on a web page and all this other stuff. And that kind of got me, and I was always into recording videos and the whole jackass days of everybody running around with a camera and doing stupid stuff and all that. So yeah, exactly. I
was all into BMX and skateboarding too.
And then when I started seeing all the extra stuff, because like with a camera, great, you can edit your video, you can show it to people, they'll enjoy it. But then to have people interact with what's going on real time really intrigued me. I was just like, this is so cool that someone could be in China or somewhere else, like hitting a button and they're controlling everything that's happening there, like changing your lights, changing your whatever.
Or just having a conversation. Like, what's that to the left? And you're like, oh, that's...
Right, it's instant. Like, they see it as it's happening. Right? Yeah. But even with the camera, the ground cameras I have, they're able to move the pan tilt zoom on it. So it's like they could point it themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If it would be really cool if we did have a 360 mounted on the cage, if somehow we can adjust that from the ground. So
I heard there's a way with the 4, but I don't have one. Do you have one?
Which one?
The X4 or whatever.
I don't have the X4. I have the 1R.
Yeah, I heard that there's a way to do that, but yeah, I mean, if any pilots like want to reach out to me about this stuff, I would love for other people to get into this, because though there is more technical side of the setup of all of it, like it all came from these years of me doing web design and everything else and learning how everything's connected, right?
Okay.
So like I said, I can't just like tell other pilots, here you go, now you can do everything I'm doing. Because it would take so much pointing out, like, well, this is what server runs this, and this is what bot's doing that, and
biggest hurdle that you've had to face doing this?
Really just keeping it safe. That's been my biggest hurdle, is because anytime that a line gets caught on something when I'm landing or something like that happens, or I dropped a mic once and then I spent like an hour looking for it, right on takeoff, and like things like that, those are the things that I try to minimize the most, because I am flying live, right? So I don't want any of my viewers to see me getting hurt or anything going through my prop, or I've had my embarrassing moments too. I've gotten wrapped by my wing, and it got all completely eaten up. You guys luckily helped me get some fabric to fix that.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so I mean, like that's another thing about live streaming too. You get the nerves, right?
Thanks.
Like people who are
you're on stage.
Just like, yeah, as soon as it comes on, there's like that feeling, if you've never live streamed before, of like, oh wait, everybody's gonna be watching this.
Yeah.
Don't mess up,
Right.
Like don't botch this. Not the landing, not the takeoff.
There's pressure.
Yeah. So that whole thing, like I don't know, I've been just trying to have fun with it, but my hurdles have always come with like trying not to get hurt doing it, so that I don't have anyone in the community going, there you go, you're messing with all this live gear, and that's what happened.
For sure.
So knock on wood, I've been lucky so far, because I've been trying to stay as cool as possible with, like, I strap everything down, everything's double tied,
you got the
rubber
ozone
banded
cockpit here, so everything's nice.
And normally,
tucked
that's
in.
all closed up.
Yeah.
The only things that hang out are these wires that go directly behind me, and they get wrapped up behind my ear so that they don't pull out. Sometimes
Right.
I'll even tape them, so that way that doesn't fly out into my prop. But it's always going to be like a learning thing, right? Because every situation's different, every takeoff's different, every landing's different, so you don't know like where you're going to get caught up on.
I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. Well, Joe, thank you so much, mate.
Definitely.
We'll put all your social media links in the bottom.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down and talking to me. We are going to go out in the field and we're going to try to test fly all this. Whether or not it makes it to the same video,
yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is a very sick Reese. This is an awesome
DRO.
IRL DRO. We'll see you next time.
All right, peace out, guys.